my organizing began basically at Attica prison. I was convicted, framed. Description of what happened was that the perpetrators were 6'4" and 6'5". You know.
They shrunk them down.
Everybody knows I'm 5'5.5". So when they got to court, they said they told the court that, of course, I went to trial, and they testified that you know, the seats in the police car were low, and the curb was high. They did everything they could to give me those additional inches. And ultimately, they convicted me and sent me to Attica. And when I got to Attica, I was bad, bitter, angry, and dangerous. You know, and I began to. Organizing was already going on in Attica. This was in 1971, in the midst of everything else that was taking place in the country. And I became heavily involved in what was going on in the prisons, you know. And we were organizing and studying and bringing ourselves up to speed on every revolutionary movement going on around the globe. And I played probably the major role in Attica, organizing in D Block Yard, which was the yard that ultimately, you know, went up. And I managed to get everybody to get rid of their alphabet soup, Black Panthers, Young Lords, Weathermen, SDS, and we got rid of all those labels, called ourselves the People's Party. And we began to organize the whole prison. 6 days before Attica went up in smoke, I got a reversal on the frame-up, and they sent me to another prison, Green Haven. And so I was able to watch the whole thing on TV.
Yeah.
It wasn't laughable then, but it was...
Better than being there. Huh?
Yeah, and I subsequently found out recently, because we've been organizing this Attica event in New York, I subsequently found out from Liz Fink, who was the lawyer for the Attica civil suit for the last 30 years, 40 years, that when they came into prison, that they were looking for me and one other person. And they didn't find out that I had left, you know, until after they did the research and found out that I left 6 days before. So had I been there, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Well, since then, that anger has driven me, and it's what drives me today. It's what brings me all the way out here to California from Harlem, is that what I feel is an abiding anger, you know, at the way that we're treated, you know, as people, you know, and at this system that puts human beings in cages, you know, human beings with the potential to put rocket ships on the moon and invent all of the stuff that we see in this society today, and take them and lock them in a cage and put them in there for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of life, you know. So that's what drives me. Since I've been out and I've been back in, before I left prison the last time, I organized a think tank and put together, ended up putting together a class action lawsuit in New York, challenging the right to vote for prisoners, parolees, and also a class action suit that included the communities that prisoners came from, because their political power was diminished by them taking away the right to vote from people that they sent to prison. Right? So every time a busload of people went to prison, that was a busload of votes from our communities. I put this class action lawsuit together. I couldn't get a civil rights organization in the country to represent it, you know. And I still have the letters and the replies. Oh, we're trying to get this Confederate flag off the state building in Okefenokee somewhere, you know. But they didn't have time to address this most important of all issues in the political process, is the question of power, right? And this is how I've come into contact with Dorsey Nunn, you know, and Reverend over here, and Norris over there. We all got involved because I became the leader of a campaign, a national campaign called Right to Vote, to get the right to vote back. And we were building grassroots organizations from the community level on up, you know, and every one of us in our particular areas, geographical areas, were pulling together coalitions and groups, you know. And in New York, I had an organization, a coalition of over 85 organizations, everybody from the American Civil Liberties Union, the People's, you know, the Brennan Center at NYU, People for the American Way, you name them. You know, every major civil rights organization in the country was part of this coalition. And we were doing good work, and we were building from the grassroots, and then all of a sudden the people at the top decided that they wanted the funding to go towards legislative reform. And so we found ourselves defunded. And this further added to my anger. And this is what makes me, you know, comfortable being here with everybody else, because in the position that we take here, that formerly incarcerated should lead this movement that we're trying to build, because the people that we were affiliated with, they had no problem crossing us, right? And this guaranteed that the issue of felon disenfranchisement would be around for the next 100 years, and they would have jobs for the next 100 years. You understand? Meanwhile, when they try to do this legislative initiatives, and the politicians ask them, well, where's your base? You understand? They turn around, we're not there, right? And so in any event, I am in complete agreement with what we're trying to do here in terms of maintaining control over this movement that we're trying to build, right? But I see our control as primarily being to see that this movement stays on track. You know, where I might have some disagreement is that we're going to need everybody to make this happen, not just former prisoners. You know, I mean, we are an exceptional group at this table here, but we are not, you know, we're not the cat's meow. We can't make it happen. You know, so, but our leadership role clearly and our voice clearly. Okay, so what I'm doing now in New York, and I have been doing for the last 8 or 9 months, without pay, without funding, without any of the wealth that seems to be available around this table, is trying to build, and I had already been doing this before I came to Alabama, was trying to build this national movement based on Michelle Alexander's book, New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration and the Age of Colorblindness. And so we've been working, and we started out with study groups, book study groups, and then we went on to put on an event that turned out to be a magnificent success. And then we went into the movement building phase, which we are in now, and we are virtually almost at the end of it. And what we're doing here in New York is the same thing that's being done around this table, you know. And that's why y'all found my voice silent for the last few months, because doing it in New York and doing it here, it was more than any human being could stand, you know. Because getting a group of people together in a room and trying to get them to agree, you know, it's like trying to harness chaos, you know. And it's painful enough in one spot, but doing it in both spots is too much to bear. But it seems that we have both arrived at the same place in terms of our vision, our mission, and goals, strategies, and tactics. So we are on the same page. And the process is moving forward, you know. And what I think